Hagmann Report for today. It is Monday. It's a manic Monday. It's November 18th, 2013. I'm Doug Hagmann. With me is my co-host, my son, fellow investigator Joe Hagmann. Together we are the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. Glad to be in studio with you, both of you. We missed Friday night. We missed you. We missed you all. However, we met some fantastic people. We'll get into that in a little bit. Folks, you're listening to the only show, we believe, at least we believe, the only show that presents the news to you in 3D. We look beyond the headlines, the bylines, the fog of distraction and destruction, and we just get right to the nuggets of the truth that we believe you need to hear. We broadcast live each and every weeknight from 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. You can find us on the Internet. Our home base is HomelandSecurityUS.com. We're also simulcast by the Christians United Broadcasting Network. There, you can tune us in at the Hagmann and HagmannReport.com. Folks, spell it all out, the Hagmann and HagmannReport.com. 2 N's, and of course, spelling out the word and. I want to thank everyone for joining us. Thank you for your belief and your trust in us as we walk through this veritable minefield of current events together. And I just want to say thank you for joining us last night. It was an interesting night. We had storms that just raged across the area. We were fortunate, of course, than most and did not suffer any damage, but it did play with the electronics. So,
not here, but 60 tornadoes in the Midwest, devastation across the land.
I tell you, it's what a mess. Well, Joe, welcome, and let's spend a little bit. Let's spend a little bit of time talking about the conference. The first thing I want to just say I just want to say this. I enjoyed meeting everyone, every person that we met at Russ Disdar's conference this past weekend.
Yeah,
was just we are so blessed, and I just want to say thank you for coming up to us and for introducing yourself to us.
It was such. There was a couple, 100 to 200 people at the conference, and we got there a little late on Friday, and we sat down at a hotel at a restaurant inside the hotel where the conference was being held, where we were staying. And we got up in the middle of dinner because we wanted to go say hi to Russ, let him know we were in town. The conference was over for the day, and we didn't want to miss him. And we couldn't get to the conference because there was so many great people that stopped us and said, "Hi, I'm listening to your show, and so nice to meet you." And we're so nice, and we talked to so many people, met so many listeners. I know there's so many more out there. I wish we could have a gathering for everybody to come and meet each other and meet us. But for who we did meet,
exactly.
I mean, there wasn't one listener that was, not that you'd expect there to be any problems, but everybody was so kind, so much more than you'd imagine. So nice and so giving, so respectful.
It was so great to put faces with people. And I felt so much out of my element there. I really did, in terms of meeting people. So if you thought, my goodness, he is really not what I expected. It was like I was really, truthfully, I'm out of my element when I do that.
Yeah,
I don't know how you felt, Joe. I mean, because we really didn't talk about this. It was we rushed there, and it was just a rush getting back. The weather was horrendous, but again, not as bad as the Midwest, the real Midwest. But and then once we got back, we had to hustle to do the show, and then by the time everything was all said and done, it was past midnight. We had some power issues here we had to take care of, and. It was just incredible, but we didn't talk about this.
I mean, you feel unworthy to have people, like, I want to meet you. But it was, like I said, it's such a blessing to know that there's so many people out there who don't just care about us, they care about what's being done with the show, the people it's reaching, the message that it's getting out there. And every second that we spent there was such a blessing. I wish we could do it every weekend, have a gathering of meeting people and having conferences, getting that type of information across. Now, the conference was really informative, and Russ Disdar, his book, I got his book, The Black Awakening, when we were there, and reading his book, starting to read his book after hearing what he talked about. It is scary, but it is what's really happening. And we knew some of this stuff going in, but man, the parts that some of the stuff he didn't talk about on the show that he got into it during his presentation, they were very eye-opening. And I know there's going to be DVDs of the conference available, and it was something of an experience for the positive, to meet everybody, to learn those things, but it was also negative to see how far-reaching this stuff is.
And hence the title of our program, the Black Awakening, which you need to know. Of course, we don't intend to rehash what was said at the conference. We don't want to do that. Folks, if you have the opportunity ever, and I certainly hope Russ will have more of these conferences, please attend. The information that he supplied and the guests that he had Saturday, Mari Terry talking about the Son of Sam. And you might think, well, what does this have to do with present day? It has everything to do with present day. The Franklin cover-up. We're going to do a special show on the Franklin cover-up. If you've never heard about the Franklin cover-up, or if that phrase is foreign to you, please go ahead and write it down tonight. Put it in the search engine for later. And just make a mental note of it, because we need to talk about this. That is really an architecture, the framework. It offers a blueprint of what's taking place today. Exponentially worse, however.
Yeah, and one thing we cover on the show a lot is spiritual warfare, the behind-the-scenes constant battle and conflict we get into in our spirits, our daily lives with the forces of evil, whether they're trying to get us to do something or putting thoughts in our head that are not godly thoughts. This, what Russ was talking about, is on manifestations in the physical world, which, you can decide which one is more frightening, but when you're dealing with things in the physical world and the spiritual world, this physical part is horrendous. In the examples that Russ gave of what he's encountered, I couldn't imagine being in a real spiritual battle, but this is a spiritual battle in the physical world, where he is called, and others are called, to fight these forces of evil, not through what the churches do in exorcisms.
Right.
But, we're talking about violence.
Investigative work.
Yeah, and ancient spirits manifesting themselves in a physical world, to where a woman could be sitting with you and all of a sudden she has a deep man's voice with an accent, and it's a demon in this person talking through.
That's right.
And it's just, it was an eye-opening experience, and I can't wait to get Russ back on the show so he can get more in depth and explain more of some of the things he didn't before the conference, because there's an element here, which I think me and my dad both learned this weekend, that was not being told during the shows that he was on, but maybe because he needed a certain level of understanding before he could get into certain things.
Very well said, by the way. And let me apologize in advance, too, not in advance, let me apologize for the photographs that people had taken with us and with me in particular. I'm not very photogenic, I got to tell you. So if I'm not going to reimburse people for their cameras, after they melted. You
said something that people sometimes expect you to. Well, I forget how you worded it, but there was one person at the conference that said, I think his name was Jerry. He said, from your pictures and everything, I thought you guys were going to be a lot taller and dwarf over me. He was the same size, same height as us. And I said, yeah, I'm just as short as...
We're extremely short, short and kind of rotund, at least in my case.
No, I thought that was funny, though. I'm thinking, what pictures did you see that made us look tall?
Well, I'm going to put up I'm going to put up a photograph of both of Russ, Joe, and I here on our website here shortly. We asked his permission to do that. He said it was fine.
We met his wife and his daughter. They were fantastic people. The people that were there behind the scenes doing the technical aspects of the conference were great. The hotel staff was great. I wouldn't change a thing or didn't have any regrets about this weekend. So anybody who has a chance to go to one of these conferences given by Russ or L.A. Marzulli or people who do these often, don't miss the chance if you get the opportunity. It's worth it.
And my wife put a note in my briefcase here to to remind her, to let her know at the conference, who met us at the conference, that she was just overwhelmed with the outpouring of just warm greetings. That it was just really great. And by the way, we did have a kind of a meeting with Russ afterwards, and I've got to tell you, there are some things that are planned. Hopefully, we can get them done. Hopefully, these will happen. This one thing in particular, I'm not going to jinx it by mentioning it, but folks, I'll tell you something. If this does if we can work this out, you know what I'm talking about, right? Joe?
Well, we talked about the following day.
Yes, well, at the lunch, and that possibility.
Oh, yeah.
If we could work that out, my goodness, folks, it would give, I don't know, it would give Glenn Beck a run for his money. Not that we're in competition with him, but it would be just so awesome to have that take place.
Regardless of the size of the audiences, you could have 10 people, you could have 1,000 people. It is just equally as good due to the characters of the people there. Because I did not meet, one person. I didn't see one person dissatisfied. I mean, everybody was just. It was like a church gathering. It was like you met with family.
It was like family, absolutely. And I missed the brother from my own hometown. I missed meeting with him the Sunday morning. It was just constant. There was so much going on between sessions, and then Sunday morning after we figured everything was over, and then wow, it just kind of ramped up from 7:00 that morning. I was busy until we met with Russ at 11.
One of the things, though, it was like which isn't bad because it's always good, but to go through refreshers. But it was like a school. I think with the conference from like 9 in the morning until 10 at night on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And we had a few 2-hour, 1-hour breaks and then a lunch break. But it was like being in an extended day of school, but of stuff that you want to learn about, not stuff you're forced to learn about. So.
You know what, folks? The reason we're talking about this too, there's so much that goes on inside or behind the scenes. It's incredible in sharing this with you. It's kind of cathartic to us, I think, and very cathartic to me because, again, I was just so blown away. I sat stunned Saturday night.
Yeah, there was a baptism.
2 baptisms.
And I missed it.
Yes.
I missed the baptisms. But also there were people that flew from Canada. I met a gentleman who flew from Mexico City. Talked to him on Friday night. It was so nice, and people came from all over the place: Atlanta, Iowa, California, just to come see the conference, come see the people there, and to go through that experience. And it would be worth it if you have the ability. It's definitely worth it.
You know what? My wife just entered the studio. I don't know if she wants to say hello or anything. Oh, no, I've never seen someone run so fast in all my life.
Actually, she ran faster on Saturday night after the conference was over, and Russ was the last speaker, and he made his way to the left of the podium coming around to talk to people, and she bolted for the back door. She, I don't know, she had to use the restroom or something.
Yeah.
She was sitting there. She ran. That was the fastest I've seen her run besides
I told her, I said, don't be drinking so much coffee, and you keep the cup. No, I'm kidding. But the one thing that struck me, and the reason we're talking about this, and even this applies to all of you listening, and when we spoke with Russ and his wife, and in fact I spoke with a gentleman today that I often talk to about issues of intelligence. And folks, let me just say this. I believe that together we are, and I say this often, but I really believe fully, more now than ever, how people look at you, ladies and gentlemen, in your families, and they look at you as the fruits and nuts of your family. If you're like me, they look at me as kind of a fruit and a nut. Basically, we believe in these in various things. We can see what's coming. We can see the catastrophic collapse ahead of us, and that's only evident right now on the surface of things. In fact, if you look out over what's taking place, you see kind of calm waters, or relatively calm waters. There's a chop here or there, but under the surface, if you're listening to this program, you know exactly what's taking place, that there's water, the waters are churning under the surface. And everyone in our audience, folks, you are so important to the larger perspective. It was explained to me today in a phone call. You know, we're the fruits and nuts that Rush often refers to, perhaps. And I'm not meaning that in a derogatory way, personally, for me anyway. But you know, the powers expect us to just roll over and take things. They expect that we are not going to fight back. They expect that we're not going to put up a fight. We're not going to really say no. Enough is enough. And something Steve Quayle said before it's all over. All of the secret machinations and the alliances that exist among the various elitists, globalists, will be revealed. And if you think about this, do people want to buy into the lie or ignore the facts? Or do you want to have your eyes opened? Because in the end, ignorance will not be a defense. So if you're listening to this program, I believe that you've been assigned, we are assigned, to hold our positions, to occupy until that final day. We are to serve as an occupying army. And if you realize that, and I'm sure you do, I'm sure everyone does, then we know that we've got a purpose. We were born for this very moment in time to serve a purpose. And I'm just, and everyone that we met has that understanding. Everyone without fail, Joe, at the conference that we met has that understanding. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would. Absolutely. I think not only that, it's more than that, because you don't really go through your walk in life doing the normal routines day to day, not stepping outside of your comfort zone, and will stumble across your purpose.
Exactly.
It takes a lot. I mean, you got to do some things that you're probably not going to be comfortable with. You got to.
You've got to stand in the face of adversity. The accusations or the characterizations of the depictions by your family and your friends at your workplace, and you got to stand up and say,
and those are
to close my eyes.
Those are good beginning battles to have engaged in, because the ones that aren't your family, that aren't your friends, that you'll get consistently after that, you can go back to how you dealt with it with the people closest to you, because that's really how you're going to have to deal with it with everybody else from everybody's family. But if there's going to be disagreements, and how do you treat people and at the same time disagree? Right.
Well, one thing, Joe, that when I was talking with my friend earlier today, he said that there was a study done, and apparently a study of very successful people, and there was a single biggest determining factor of all of the successful people in all walks of life, the very pinnacle of success. I mean, we're talking about the top of the top, the cream at the top. There was one thing they all have in common. It's not money, at least at the start. It's not power, certainly not at the start. It's not connections. It's persistence. It's true grit. It's the desire not to be overcome or overrun by or defeated by those who are attempting to defeat us. And we're all tired of being told that we've got to roll over and take it. And we represent a small but formidable faction. And you know, I believe that our audience is a remnant for this time. Now, I'm not ascribing any type of divinity to anyone or to us in general, but I believe that together we represent this remnant. And in retrospect, and I did a lot of thinking over. Everybody I spoke to, I really a lot of thinking about what you all said, in person. In fact, some had given us research and information. I want to thank you for that. But just meeting you and being and having that feeling, I really believe, and doing the show as well tonight, our interaction with each other, I believe that we are the remnant, or a remnant. We could turn the tide. We don't have to win necessarily on the numbers, because we've got that persistence, and we've got that presence, and most important of all, we've got that connection with Jesus Christ, and that's not to be understated. And one thing, the show title is, of course, The Black Awakening, What You Need to Know. And just let me say this. We all need to be ready, because we believe, and after talking with others, that the end of this age, the end time is very close. And there will be a coming catastrophic collapse of everything. We've only seen just the surface, as I indicated before, the waters that are choppy, but underneath the surface, the real danger does lurk. The cause of all of this has long been neglected and extremely overlooked. Perhaps it's a supernatural blinding. It's deception and seduction at its finest, for sure. It's what's behind the scenes that are moving nations, economies, and militaries, and politicians, and people leaders, and the puppet masters, and the puppets themselves. There's a spirit right now breaking through the veil as never before. Many people feel the ominous others have embraced. It's mass face is something good. Judas did that once, and the deception ran circles around him. It used him and left him in a field of blood. Now,
and Russ talked about this, the restrainer.
Yes.
What's keeping the veil in place, so that we do not see with our eyes what is going on all around us in the spiritual world. But as Scripture states, and he pointed out, whatever is holding that restrainer in place, be it the Father, is going to remove it. And when he does remove it, then we will be face to face. There will be no more veil between our world and the spiritual world, be it good or bad.
One thing that he did talk about were the chosen ones, and they're so named. I'm sorry,
I didn't like that name. I was just going to jump in, and he said that he called them the chosen ones, but it was not. It's not chosen by God or chosen for good. He said the chosen ones, and called them the chosen ones because they were chosen, and they're just not chosen for the reasons we think. And this gets into what the main theory and information behind his portion of the conference was, which is the satanic ritual abuse in the occult and what they are doing. Why it's not just for their sacrifices to Satan and for their earthly lust pleasures. There is a darker meaning behind what they are doing through the occult and through the ritual abuse, and it ties into the shooters we see, the school shootings. It ties into the odd behavior from so many different historical moments, from Sirhan to Lee Harvey Oswald to even Jack Ruby. And it gives a whole new meaning to my understanding of sleeper cells or sleepers.
Yes, exactly. And you mentioned that, and I had a chuckle about that, because that's almost a very apt description of what we're seeing. The chosen ones are named because they have been chosen by Satan to serve him, period. And we talk about this, and I'm citing Russ Dizdar now. We often talk about Luciferians, the globalists, the elites, the royalty, and all these people that comprise the powers that are. Well, the chosen ones are those who have come up through the old bloodline satanic or Luciferian groups. They're committed to a coming new world order and a supernatural world leader. And is this not what we're seeing right now? Is this not the lead up to this? These are the many victims of, as you said, Joe, satanic ritual abuse and soul ripping and mind control. All of them at this point have been selected. Now, this is according to us, born and raised in this dark system. They've been
unwilling
split.
participants.
Yes. Well, willing, unwilling, it depends on but
the majority, from what I understood, unwilling participants who, in many cases, don't even know what's going on with them.
And this is what Russ talked about on the program on Monday before the conference. You know, he spoke very quickly and mentioned things like multiples and MPD, multiple personality disorder, dissociative identity disorder, all of these acronyms, but it all comes down to these chosen ones, chosen for their bloodline, serving the bloodlines. We talk about the Illuminati, the 13 bloodlines of the Illuminati. How many times have you heard that and not really connected it with the current events? You think, well, this might have been an old type of archaic system at one point. Well, no, this is active today. Most of these, as you pointed out, Joe, most of these subpersonalities have been programmed and demonized. They're highly trained, constantly maintained, so they've got handlers as well. They've got numerous abilities, different powers, and a deeply seated agenda, at least an agenda that serves their master, the master of their world, which is Lucifer, Satan. Believe it or not, they confess that they are, in fact, troops of the coming Antichrist. And they say that they're here to unleash hell on earth in a chaos such as the world has never seen before. And this was the final the closing words of Russ during the final portion of the conference. This brings it all together, folks. This is a conspiracy to bring in globalism. And this conspiracy to bring in the globalism is here, and it's almost ready to burst into power. This is the same conspiracy, by the way, that was spoken about 3,000 years ago in Psalm 2. It's revealed that this conspiracy is embedded in world leaders, nations, and masses of the people.
Yep. And I want to say that the planning, while in planning stages for such a long time, the Nazi regime plays the key role in where the physical armies where this was put to practice and where it was made to come to fruition.
You know, and I couldn't make the leap, or I had trouble making that leap between the Third Reich, the building of the construction of the Third Reich, and the Nazis and the troops of the Antichrist. But through this conference and through additional research, I can see now where you've got, and also how and you've talked about Operation Paperclip and about bringing the Nazis here over to the United States, and a number of different issues. A number of different things. I now, and folks, hopefully we can articulate how this is going to take place, or how this has taken place, and what's going to happen from here on out. I mean, right now, we are seeing the third and fourth, or second, third, and fourth, in many cases, generations of these chosen ones that are in existence, that have been programmed and have accepted these positions. And I know it's very difficult to believe, but if you look back, at least for some, it's difficult to believe and accept, but if you look back at what the Nazis were doing and what America did, specifically criminal elements within the American government during that time period, during World War II and after World War II, bringing the scientists over here.
Yeah, you have to ask yourself why. Why were they allowed to escape? Why were they given jobs? And it wasn't just to America. It was to all the major countries, technologically advanced countries in the world that these Nazis were taken to. And why would that be the case? If these people were so bad, if what they did was so awful, which it was, Why were some chosen to be the scapegoats at the Nuremberg trials, and why were the majority brought over to technological positions in high key places of government across the globe?
Well, what we're going to try to do this evening, and we'll be taking your phone calls, folks, at 661-244-9839, as well as covering other news as well. But what we're going to try to do is kind of link the words and you've heard this, the various information provided by people like Nathan Leal and Steve Quayle, of course, Tom Horn, Chris Putnam, and Russ Dizdar, Greg Jackson, Paul McGuire, all of these people who have appeared on our show here within the last month or two. If we can link together what they are saying, what each is saying, and bring it to a common thread, this is the Black Awakening. This is what we're experiencing or will experience. And I think it's so important for people to understand this, understand exactly what's ahead of us. Because until this weekend, I mean, I realized, of course, that there are demonic entities out there, and it's easy to ascribe, for example, if you look at the Obamacare today, it's easy to say, well, you've got a bunch of morons running the system, and this is why the system, the healthcare network, the hub, collapsed or is not working. Well, that's a very simplistic approach, and that makes for good sound bites and for good political theater. Republicans versus Democrats, the progressives versus the conservatives. Hey, this is it shows the incompetence behind the Democrats. Again, very simplistic. This is not about that. This is about a deeply rooted agenda that was really put into motion at the beginning of mankind. Regardless of, and you don't have to believe all aspects of this, but you yourself can make these connections, and perhaps you can articulate the connections better than even we can. However, it's important to make these connections. When we bring on people like Paul McGuire and Greg Jackson to talk about the current state of affairs, and Nathan Leal to talk about, for example, his visions, and Steve Quayle where he talks about the DNA, genetic Armageddon, and the angel warfare,
transhumanism.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, the technology being merged with humankind to grow to make super soldiers or sleepers, bringing back ancient technology that was here before the garden or during the Garden of Eden, before the flood, brought on by demons, given to man, which was the purpose for the flood and the removal of these entities and what they introduced to humankind, and it continues from there. I mean, you can go down through obviously why Jesus came and what Satan tried to do to remove him from being able to appear on the world as the savior of humanity. It is this fight versus good and evil has been around since the very first humans were on earth, and it will be until the Lord destroys and binds the rest of those who started it in the bottomless pit for eternity.
And you know what, Joe, and ladies and gentlemen, we use the terms Illuminati, Luciferians, globalists, the global elite. We throw those words around a lot, but and as do others, and they write about them. And it's always the globalist agenda or the agenda of the Illuminati, or talking about the Illuminati in the past tense. But what about today? And who are these Luciferians, Illuminati? Who are they? Well, the Illuminati, in the simplest explanation, they consist of many of the world's richest families. They only pay lip service to religion, but they worship Lucifer. In many cases, they will associate themselves with Christianity or Judaism or even Hinduism or Buddhism or whatever religion, yet they worship Lucifer. Their agents control the world's media, the education, the business, and politics. They've really hijacked all aspects of the world. Now, the object of the first degrees of the Illuminati is wants to train their young men and to be informed of everything that's going forward by a system of espionage. That is according to a transcript from the 18th century Bavarian Order of the Illuminati, or referencing that, I should say. Now, this included, and I'm not quoting it from a history of secret societies, this included the fact that the Illuminati were proposing to destroy princes and others throughout the world, and were to remove forever the feeling of local nationality from the minds of men. Folks, it's so important to understand that. Why are they so focused on destroying the United States of America? It's because, of course, they cannot have the U.S. in the way. The ways in which this was to be done, or is to be done, involves the infiltration of high positions in education, in political circles, and, of course, the media. 2 Thessalonians 2, looking at this from a biblical perspective. For the secret, the hidden power of lawlessness is already at work. Now, think about that. And people say, well, your show, religious. No, it's not religious. We talk about what the current events through the prism of biblical scripture and prophecy. And I think it's so important because this, as you said earlier, Joe, this is a fight, supernatural fight. This is a fight against principalities of powers and principalities of darkness, and it's just incredible. And we have to understand the spiritual aspect, the spiritual side of this. We need to understand that the spirit, or the one behind the curtain, is the Lucifer entity that's pulling the strings of globalism. The need for and must-have of all things global will be the core agenda, and is the core agenda of the Illuminati, both present and in the future, as well as in the past. And all of those under this Luciferian cause, by the way. These people that we're talking about will push and pull and what way it obtain a global consensus, global government, global religion, and a single spirituality that really worships the state. A global military, and as you said, Joe, super soldiers. Now, isn't this what we're seeing today? Isn't this aren't these goals being shown, illustrated in what we're seeing today with, for example, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TPP, the erosion of our sovereignty? We can talk about it in an isolated vacuum-like sense, but when you put it in the larger panorama of events and throw in the globalist agenda, the Illuminati agenda, and the dark spirit behind it, then it begins to make a little bit more sense.
Yeah, and I got a question that maybe you can answer. This is not something that I caught to be made clear during the seminar. Now, people who are demonically possessed or having an agenda of darkness, being controlled by Satan, when you ask them, if Jesus Christ was the only Son of the living God, they can't get into that. They can't say those words. Jesus was the Son of the only God, came down in the flesh and was crucified for the sins of all humanity. Now, the question is, these sleepers, these dual personality multiples, can one side of them say that they believe that, while that other deep, dark downside? Because we were...
Sure, I believe that to be true, because don't forget, Russ had talked about this, and in fact, I think he talked about this on our show on Monday. There are sleepers. There are people with multiple personalities. There are people who are the chosen ones. Again, the characterization, the depiction of the use of that phrase is theirs, not ours, but in churches. That have infiltrated in churches. And
they said, in conferences that it's popped up like this. But they did say about the churches that it was very, he made a reference to the biggest, baddest people, bikers, cops. When they see one of these multiples or these demonic sides that have taken over a person manifest, they'll be the first ones to run out of the room, whereas the people who are, trained and understand the spiritual aspect of things aren't so easily ready to flee. But, the first biggest guy full of tattoos, they'll be wetting their pants running out the door when they see a little old lady start talking with a East German accent of a man, and having the power to throw, officers around the room like table chairs.
Exactly. And that's something that we all have to be prepared for. I truly believe this in the research that I've done, and after talking, you and I speaking with Russ and at length, and of course the programming that we've had, I truly believe that there is this cabal of entities, of people. Okay, I'll just say people that have multiple entities inside that have been programmed to be, for example, programmed to be assassins and programmed to be to do different things at different times, at a certain time.
Yeah. Now, Michael Arevna,
when activated,
last time I was on our show, talked about this, was Stargates, portals, and assassins. He talked about this on our last show. He'll be with us on Wednesday with Steve, and who else is coming on? With V. Steve, V, and Michael Arevna. We will be here live Wednesday at 8 and have those three gentlemen on. And also, I want to see if Mr. Dizdar will come back on this week, if not next week, to maybe recap what he can about the conference and clarify what we're half butchering tonight.
Well, I don't think we're butchering at all. I think
no, but the clarity that he describes it in is so easily understandable that when we are regurgitating what he's trying to say, it doesn't, in my mind, come out as clear. It's not as hard-hitting.
And we're only taking one aspect of this. And this is the Illuminati aspect of this, the Luciferians, because we do talk about this a lot. Well, who in the world are they, and where do they come from? And we know the history. We know the bloodline history, but have we addressed the spiritual history? Have we addressed... Because the spiritual component of this, to me, is perhaps the most important aspect of this. And few touch on this. Russ does, but of course, many of our guests do, but few outside of a certain circle of influence do touch on this.
Because they don't even believe in the evil nature of it. They don't believe that things can be that diabolical or that bad. They think that this is just even if they believe far enough to the point that they think it's just a war against good and evil spirits. Well, we know how things manifest on here on earth. We know the story of Jesus casting out the legion of demons and the man by the tombs. We know that these spirits manifest and inhabit humans here on earth. It's not that we have to get this connotation out of our mind that the spiritual battle only stays in the spiritual realm. As you said, the veil is lifting, and things are becoming more potent in the satanic area in people because Satan knows the time is short.
Well, let me digress a moment here because, again, this conversation with the gentleman I had, connected with the intelligence world, we were talking today. And few people will accept this or even understand it. And he had to really spend hours with me to really get me to a point where I could even accept it. Because I'll tell you something, 5 years ago, I would have just laughed at this or blown it off. But now I'm kind of getting it. We do have this spiritual warfare that's taking place, and of course you've got the Satanism and Wiccan. Whether you believe in it or not, it really doesn't matter. It's what the people behind their belief systems believe. Now let's apply this mindset, this criminal mindset to the present day. Now you have to understand too that these people who are out there, these Luciferians, these as Russ calls them, the chosen ones, the multiples, meaning people with this multiple personalities that do and can and do change from a nice, just a very normal looking individual to all of a sudden assuming the characteristics of a Stasi assassin, if you will. That's what we're dealing with here. But think about this now. Might what we're seeing happen is perhaps us winning a few battles in terms of the spiritual war? Because if you look at, and let's go back to Syria. Let's apply this to, for example, Syria, what happened in Syria. If you look at the events with Syria, we fully expected, and perhaps we should be right now in a full-blown war, at least a hot proxy war in Syria. Folks, that's coming, but it's been delayed. Why was it delayed? Because of the revelations, because of people, the new media coming out and saying, look, this is about gun running and exposing these operations. It's not just about the 4 dead in Benghazi. It's about the 150,000 plus dead in Syria. But there's a spiritual aspect of this. Don't for a minute deny or be in disbelief that the powers that are behind this agenda of death and destruction and ushering in the Third World War, these are certain definite Luciferians. They are satanic. They do believe in magic, perhaps magic with a K. They do believe that they can cast spells. They do believe that they can through their magic and through their darkness of this dark spiritual incantations and these processes, they believe that they can put spells. And it sounds very simplistic, and I'm making it sound simplistic for deliberately. But think of it this way. Think of it like a Harry Potter book, where, and in fact, you might be familiar with the Harry Potter writings, but in the world of the Satanists and the Druids and the Wiccans, of which many powerful people are associated with, and we see this happen at the Bohemian Grove, but few understand really the significance behind this. But at any rate, what if they were casting a spell, but we, as the opposition, having the spiritual power, the power of the cross behind us, and of everything represented by that, and of Jesus behind us, could it be perhaps that our spirituality, our spiritual power overcame or was greater than theirs given the situation because of the increase of knowledge? And by the way, they believe.
Okay, you call me. We're back up. Sorry, guys, for that audio disturbance. No, you got to go to the studio computer, call the studio computer, not the old call. Thanks for your patience, ladies and gentlemen. Seems to be a Skype issue. All things are green here, except
there we go.
You're back on air, and sorry.
You know, it's interesting. This did happen at the conference. I mean, with Skyping in and praying over it, praying over the equipment, and it's interesting to understand how the occult, the satanic element, attempts to take power and dominion over the airwaves and over various computers and equipment.
Yeah, let me explain that real quick. There was a few people at the conference who could not appear, who were speakers, who could not appear live. So what they did was use, video Skype to give their presentations to the people. And not only that, one gentleman made a YouTube video just in case the live Skype and live feeds went down, and that couldn't even be played all the way through because of technical issues. It was very strange. At the same time, we did get through and got the messages from the people who, most of the message from the people that weren't there and were having audio problems. But yeah, these, whether demonic, and I was thinking about this today. How far can we go in our lives to blame things on spiritual attacks? Can we say every single fight we get into, everything that goes wrong in our life is a spiritual attack? I would say no, but
no,
we have to be mindful of things that are.
But you can't dismiss it, right?
Right. We can't get into things that aren't spiritual attacks, problems that aren't coming from spiritual attacks. Well, that will then be exploited by the dark forces and turned into an opportunity for them to get involved, and it will become a spiritual attack.
Exactly. Now, just to continue, I'm hearing weird sounds coming from here. My headset. Are we okay with respect to the audio?
We're on right now, and I'm getting word from Cuban that all shows are getting messed up. It's not just us. The other shows happened at the same time we got kicked off. So,
all right. Okay.
But chat room says they can hear us. So.
Good. Okay. Well, once again, the super soldiers. These people are engineered by the Illuminati, the elite. And I bring in the super soldiers here because I believe, certainly after enough due diligence and research, that of course you can research this on your own as well, just by searching the phrase super soldiers, and of course look at the DNA, how we, meaning our nation and certainly our intelligence and military apparatus, are attempting to create the perfect soldier, the ones without emotion. And
if I can jump in and say this, these satanic crimes, these occultist crimes have become so prevalent that one thing I learned during this conference, and one of the presenters, they have divisions inside police departments that are satanic crime, like, special victims units.
Oh, yeah.
They have satanic crime units in cities all across the world, or the country.
But you know where they don't have it? They don't have it on a federal level.
No, that's correct. They don't have, the occult crime division that, gives money to the law enforcement agencies across the nation, giving grants and passing down literature and information how to better battle these things. People are going to people like Russ Dizdar. He explained to us how he was recruited as from a police corporal to become sit and look at some of these crimes that were taking place. This Tony presenter was a
Tony Kane,
consultant for the occult crimes, and he would be called into strange scenes. And one of the scenes he described was, blood, animal remains, a circle of rocks, and a fire. And it was kind of funny. It was a joke and an example that there's a difference between a hunting scene and a satanic crime scene, but they can easily be confused from the untrained eye.
Exactly. Yeah, and it was a really, you had to hear him tell it to really get the full effect of it. Just imagine being a police officer responding to a group of guys in the middle of a field with a fire, and a group of rocks and dead animals and just various other things, and being called out, we'll say, as an occult crimes specialist in the middle of the night to take a look at what's going on, only to realize that, it was a group of hunters, and the only real crime there was involved Jack Daniels and some pretty bad insight with respect to weaponry,
Yeah.
But the Illuminati are creating a core group of, and have created, and we'll say are on their again the third, perhaps fourth generation of these four chosen ones.
Possibly final generation, right. And that's not good. When I say final, I don't mean they're going to give up and retire. I mean they have what they need to complete their agenda.
And the super illuminated, the Illuminati, they feel that they are the secret elite who are absolutely light years above everyone else. They feel superior,
holding keys to all the mystery religious, the real truth, what they'll call the truth of religion, which is either satanic worship, or they'll do what Zeitgeist did and tell their lower level hierarchy that it's just a myth, or religion is just a myth used as control mechanism for the masses. But when you get higher up into the hierarchy, it is, full-fledged Luciferianism.
And this is where I was having trouble connecting the dots here. Once again, feeling above the rest, they have their own method of communication. And at times they've got to communicate with each other and send messages. Well, they do this. You know how you'll see a YouTube video or see on a blog or a website where they talk about or show pictures of these hand gestures and somebody covering one eye or holding something a certain way and saying, see, look, see, they're sending coded messages. In many cases, they are. In many cases, you've got world leaders that will present themselves in a certain way to send a certain message at a certain time. And I use the example. If you go back, and by the way, they use numbers, dates, and times. That's how those fit into the equations. Because those involved in the occult and satanic Luciferian agenda believe certain times, certain dates hold greater significance than others. And again, it doesn't matter what we believe. It matters what they believe, because their belief is the driver of their actions. They feel that their illumination, their significance comes from any and all spiritual streams, except the real spiritual presence, the power and the knowledge that comes from the Bible. Now, they will use the Bible in a perverse way, and they will use it to usher in what they believe is the apocalypse, but they're not doing it for they're doing it from the opposite side, despite knowing the ending. It's just a misbelief and a perversion of the ending. And we have to, just one last thing here about this. We have to understand, too, that the spirit that initiated this group began in the garden of human history. And once you really understand that, where the battle began, I think that from there you can branch out and see the connections and follow the bloodlines and the groups and the breadcrumbs that continue through this day. But there are many other aspects to this as well. The real Luciferian will and is the one who is very well read, deeply versed in secret spiritual knowledge, and again, this goes back to the codes. They feel that they're way beyond the common man. That's you and I, by the way. And when George Carlin talked about that special club, this is, maybe he wasn't referring specifically to this, but this is that special club in which he was talking about. It's easy to just blow that club off, we'll say, or that group off as a secular, talk about it in purely secular terms. However, it's deeply rooted in the spiritual. So that's something very important.
To sum it up, folks, you really need to buy the book, The Black Awakening, The Rise of the Satanic Super Soldier and the Coming Chaos, to get a better understanding of this. But weaponizing satanic powers is what they talk about, dealing with ancient and historic desire to seek supernatural powers to aid in military warfare. And these rituals have been used in the past and may be being used today to seek supernatural powers and to give advantage to military systems. And that's a major component of what we are going to be facing in the near future. And with that, we're going to take a break. We made it through the first hour of this Monday edition of the...
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 2 of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, taking your calls throughout the rest of the remainder of the show. 661-244-9839. That's 661-244-9839. I'd like to hear from you. I'd like to hear what you think about the state of the world today. The Black Awakening, I believe that we are about to see come into fruition. And anything that is of significance that you feel that we need to talk about, we need to discuss, remember, this is your program. This is definitely your program as much as it is ours. And this will give you a chance to provide information to others as well. Many news stories I got to tell you, the TSA is expanding their presence. It's interesting. TSA is rolling out these detention pods. I don't know whether you saw this, folks, at airport exits.
Yeah.
Now, WorldNet Daily reported on this, but there's more to this. In Syracuse, on the way out of Syracuse's airport terminal, the new exits get some strange looks. Paul Trudeau thought they looked like a science fiction intergalactic time machine as he passed through one on his way out. he said, I was expecting to get transported somewhere like on Star Trek. I was like, yeah, we finally got there. Anyway, others were wondering if it was an X-ray chamber or it might fill up with dollar bills like you'd see on the game show. That's the appearance, by the way, of what these exit pods look like. A robotic voice gives instructions of people to enter the portal and wait for the doors to close behind you, and then a few seconds later the outer door opens. And what this is they're part of the airport's $60 million renovation projects. The portals are one way. So if you try to get back into the secure area, the door automatically locks, and you are trapped, hence the reference to detention pods. And the excuse given by, at least by Syracuse Airport Commissioner Christina Callahan, she states that we need to be vigilant and maintain high security protocol at all times. These portals were designed and approved by TSA, which is important. Well, of course, folks, we are because we have failed or have decided not to. Not you, not the outspoken ones, but the people who have said, well, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to go ahead and roll with the punches. I'm going to roll over and let them do what they will. Because of this, the TSA is now expanding, now becoming more aggressive, and now becoming a police force in and of itself. Again, these are not commissioned officers, yet they have the equipment to make arrests at detentions at airports. One way, a new way, are these detention portals. If you like them, folks, at airports, watch for them elsewhere. They're going to be rolling them out. And in addition to that, we also see that police departments now are getting the equipment that has been used back in Iraq and Afghanistan. Drones, tanks, grenade launchers.
What's that program, 1023 or 1033? Before, I don't know if they have new programs now.
There's a number of different ones, and yes, but
and another disturbing thing I've heard, which I don't know, I haven't been able to verify it, but DHS will be giving orders to the local police during emergencies on what to do, how to handle things,
right.
And that's scary. I mean, like the police don't know how to respond to disasters. They haven't been trained for this on their own. We need a federal authority to come in and usurp the power of the local police, many of whom have ties to people in the local community and could get things done at a much more efficient and less dangerous level. But we're going to have federal goon squads come in instead and dictate how things should be, done, whether it's recovery, whether it's, mitigation of further damage in the midst of disasters. I mean, just imagine, like the tornado situation. Certain towns are taken out in these tornadoes, and you have the local authorities coming in there, knowing the needs of the people. Now you're going to have a federal Gestapo agency create more bureaucratic red lines on aid, on movement, on help. It's going to be so much worse.
The small departments, police departments, are actually the benefactors, and they fall now under the jurisdiction and the command of the Department of Homeland Security because they have taken money. It's kind of like being a debtor to someone. Did you ever feel like a slave to that person or that entity? Of course. It's that mindset. Well, you take my money, there are strings attached. Why, for example, does a police department, which hasn't had an officer killed in the line of duty in the last 125 years, in a town of less than 20,000, why do they need tactical military vests like those used by our soldiers in Afghanistan? Why does a police department, for example, in a city of 35,000 need a military-grade helicopter? And what possible use could police at Ohio State University have for acquiring an MRAP that is designed to withstand IED blasts and sniper fire?
I have an
grenades.
Answer. I have an answer.
Do tell.
Now, in college, we have students are now millions of Americans are watching their healthcare policies get canceled due to the Obamacare regulations. regulations, the new healthcare rules are having a major impact on college campuses. Students are being kicked off of their university healthcare because of the Affordable Health Care Act. So we could have rioting students in these towns. I mean,
I've actually talked to two different people who have said that, who have experienced this eviction from their healthcare plans, their student healthcare plans. And in one, as a matter of fact, how it was described to me, this individual was, and I have to talk with him yet. I owe him a phone call. He was paying $115. That's $115 a month. Now, his premium through this Obamacare exchange system, this well, it's going to be over $600 a month.
Oh, he's lucky. One student here at Bowie University of Maryland said that the cost of student health insurance policies went from $100 a year to $1,800 a year.
That's per year. So
yeah. Okay, you were going by month, but they say an average of $900 to $1,500 a semester increase.
All right. Well, but to go back to the militarization, paramilitarization, Montgomery County, Texas, the sheriff department there owns a $300,000 surveillance drone, like the ones used overseas. We're hearing about this more and more and more. And the reports are coming in fast and furious, pun intended. Why? Well, the answers we're getting from the government are inconsistent with the truth behind this program. And it makes for good sound bites. We can talk about this all day long in a very prophylactic way, in a very cursory way. But the bottom line here is these departments are now being subjugated to the whims and wishes and commands of the Department of Homeland Security. And the Department of Homeland Security, based on information I received, is directly under the care and control or the wishes and whims of the executive branch of the government, not the way it's supposed to be, with some filtering through the Department of Justice. And it is Valerie Jarrett, along with other members of the White House and also the special advisors to DHS, who are extremely pro-Islamic and members of the Muslim Brotherhood, who are making the policy decisions within the DHS. Does that mean, for example, that that this is an Islamic agenda? Well, some people will stop it right there and say, yes, there's an Islamic agenda at play, without going the step further to see what's behind this Islamic agenda. They're using the Islamic agenda, the Muslim Brotherhood operatives in DHS, to create this agenda, much like they're using the Islamic groups within the country to change the legal structure, the structure of our legal system, of our judicial system. They're using Sharia law, for example, in many areas of the country, and this is a coordinated assault to destroy the constitutionality of our judicial system, the laws of our judicial system. So that, but see, people don't. They'll stop right there and say, okay, well, it's all the Muslims. It's the Muslims behind this who want to change the fabric of the United States. True. However, where's the money and the power and the control behind the Muslims? That's what the people don't look at. So those people, and you can see it in various sites. I mean, for example, Steve Emerson, great guy, talks about it, and others talk about this. And you'll see these anti-Islamic campaigns, for example, in New York City and in other cities, where they're saying, in a war between savages, we fight the savages. Or I'm paraphrasing here. You've got to look at the entire picture. You cannot stop and just blame the Muslim component, because they're being used in this case by the globalists.
And we talk a lot about with the Obamacare, how they use regulations to change laws. Well, a new headline out today from the National Review says, "Why do we have excess regulations? Can we get rid of it?" As a general rule, the main incentive faced by regulatory agencies is to produce more and more regulations. They have no incentives to even make sure that these regulations are needed, appropriately addressing a problem, or causing more harm than good. The result is more and more regulations. How much more? Over the Competitive Enterprise Institute's blog, Ryan Young gives a list of 66 new regulations produced just this week. In a short week, because of the Veterans Day holiday, many agencies added nearly 1,700 pages to the 2013 Federal Register, which is on track to be the 5th largest ever despite a 2-week shutdown. And on the data, last week, 66 new final regulations were pushed by the Federal Register, 78 new final rules. It goes on to say the equivalent of a new regulation every 2 hours and 33 minutes. And I watched the show at night during the conference when it was in the evening time. John Stossel came out with a new Regulation Nation show or update in that series. And man, the regulations that these people put out, the regulators, the people who write the regulations were interviewed, the people who enforce the regulations were interviewed, the people who were enforcing them were being asked, why are you enforcing these, absurd regulations? You would be shocked to see some of these things. And they said, well, we're just following the law. The regulators who wrote the regulations said, we're just doing what we're supposed to do. So it's a compartmentalization circle of basically siphoning out any hope of entrepreneurism in our country. And when we talk about killing the middle class, this is a significant way that they're using to do it.
Very, very well said. Absolutely. All right. We've got some phone calls. Well, let's go ahead and take some phone calls. Can you tell that we're operating off script tonight? We decided to, we had everything planned out, but we decided to operate a little bit off script this evening in an attempt to get more of your phone calls in tonight, because tomorrow night we're going to have Stan Deo on, and Wednesday, of course, Steve Quayle, V, and Michael Arevna. Yeah. I got to tell you, and what Michael Arevna, by the way, the subject matter of that program is going to be the international monetary system and what we can expect, what V is seeing, what Michael Arevna has discovered. It's not exactly what you might think. There's more to what he's already reported. It's going to be an interesting broadcast. Yeah, and in between these phone calls, we're going to hit the headlines. Treasury issued over $1 trillion of debt in the first fiscal 6 weeks of this year. Scott Walker, allies and groups of Scott Walker's homes were raided, subpoenas issued targeting the conservative groups that surround him. By the way, Joe, I just want to stop you right there. That, folks, is so important to pay attention to. I've heard from my contacts, that is a beta test. That is what happens from this is going to affect policy and procedure across the United States. What they're doing to these groups, these conservative groups, Scott Walker, they are carefully planning, plotting, and watching for how this plays out. And if this is a success in their eyes, this will become more of the norm. So, folks, we're going to be getting into that here as the program unfolds. Yep. 2 phone calls. We are going to go to area code 407 first. Thanks for holding. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. What's on your mind tonight?
Hey, how you guys doing today?
Fantastic. How are you?
Very good, very good. First off, I'd just like to say that, you guys are really awesome, man. You guys do an awesome job, and it was a message from God that sent me to you guys in the first place. And I had actually heard Steve Quayle at 2 o'clock in the morning flipping through some channels, and he just happened to be on talking about giants, and I looked him up on YouTube, and that led me to you guys, and I thought that was pretty awesome.
It's fantastic, actually. It's amazing how everything is how everything is interacting with each. Certain things are interacting. What am I trying to say, Joe? It's
what you're trying to say is how the Word and the people who are bringing the Word of God are people are finding each other, from the people who are searching for the information of, things that are in the Bible will lead you to, it's amazing the guests that we've had on that where we were led to through the same way you were led to us. It's a blessing.
And
yes.
And I love listening to you guys. I listen to you guys every day. I love Joe's sense of humor. I love listening to you guys, joke around every once in a while and make it a little bit lighthearted. Because there was times in the beginning where, I could listen to Steve and listen to all you guys talk, and, I would just break down and cry. It would just almost be like it's too much, for you to handle sometimes. You know what I mean? And I really enjoy the fact that you guys make it a little bit lighthearted. Paul McGuire is awesome. Brother Marcus, I keep them lifted up in prayer, at all times. And I just really thank you guys for everything that you do.
Oh, man. Well, thank you for listening, and thank you for keeping us in your prayers and being a warrior.
Show, yeah. We're blessed to have you as a listener.
And I will say that, I know it doesn't really make too much of a difference, but I'm a young 27-year-old African-American guy, been in the proverbial hood, and I love you guys, and I try to talk to my brothers and sisters out here, and, I'm battling out here in Florida, and,
Wow.
I did want to ask you guys if you guys noticed, have you guys noticed the gas prices going down to almost, $3 here recently? I don't know if that really means anything, but I've just been keeping an eye on that and just other things as well.
Yeah, two things. One, we have noticed it go down pretty much 30 cents in the last 2 weeks in our area. And two, it does make a big difference what you're doing. Being 27 years old and being involved and interested in the Lord is what we need more of. It's always great to have any person, regardless of age or race or class, be interested, and we find it more with the older people. But we need young soldiers for Christ out there, because this is where a true difference can be made in stopping things from happening earlier and people from going through, decades of misery before they find the Lord in their hearts. And what you're doing is just as important, if not as important as what everybody else is doing, and everybody's playing their part. And that's what we need to do, as I said in the beginning of the show, find out what the Lord wants from us in our life, and you are well ahead of the rest of the pack, my friend.
I really appreciate it, and I do love you guys, and I did actually see another article here recently that said a company had basically said that they have created basically like you guys were talking about the other day with light posts, just regular light posts that they've already implemented in places like Las Vegas that actually pick up sound recordings of you on the street and pick up your facial technology.
Oh, yeah.
I've gotten so nervous that I drive with the visor down. When I pull up to the stoplights and stuff. So I just wanted to share that story. I don't want to take up too much time, but I love you guys.
Well, thank you.
I will call again.
Do so.
We look forward to hearing from you. And also a good trick is putting a paper over your license plate. That will help for the camera license plate readers, but not for the facial recognition stuff. So.
Yeah, try. No,
I'm kidding.
Don't try that. No.
All right, God bless you.
Thanks, buddy. All right, appreciate it. But Joe, I was following through on a couple of things today, and the boxes, both the black and the white boxes on the light post, they're rolling this out. This is a federal initiative. They're rolling this out in various cities. Once again, this is a test market for wiring all cities across the United States. In the Pacific Northwest, they actually had to stop what they were doing. The city said, "Wait a minute, you don't have to the federal government. You you didn't tell us about this." And you can find this online. And I'm kind of encapsulating the story, but what is taking place right now is a system of surveillance that is being unveiled, and the information is being funneled to these data fusion centers that are really operated by DHS in conjunction now with FEMA. It's really a convoluted, twisted tale and path of control. But ultimately, we're looking at the consolidation of power. We're looking at the consolidation of information and the use of these boxes that not only have the audio capabilities, but they have the video capabilities. And we're talking about 360-degree video capabilities. These are not toys. They're being implemented, and they're on a 24/7 record loop. This is information I've gotten specifically out of one city, that being Spokane, actually, where these do exist, and they're not everywhere, but where they do exist, they pump a 24/7 feed. It's a live feed until, of course, it's recorded and onto a hard drive, not discs, but I mean not a DVD, but actual hard drives, and maintained. But in addition to that, they are cataloging the faces and the entire bodies, actually, of people who are walking down the street, and also recording the audio. And these are directional microphones within these boxes. So think about it this way: if you're walking, and they're high up, so if you're walking down the street, you're not paying any mind to anything up, above you on poles. You might make a couple of comments to your wife. You're on a public sidewalk. Let's say you're walking to Starbucks or wherever. Not only has your face been recorded, and they are cataloging. It's a freeze frame. It's not only the video, but it's a freeze frame. They're cataloging your face, much like the AFIS system is doing for fingerprints.
Alex+Jones touched on this years ago, and especially the bigger cities like New York City, Los Angeles, about the level of listening, the eavesdropping capabilities that billboards are renting out space on their sign, or buildings are renting out space on their roofs for this technology to be implemented. Cell phone towers are renting out space on their towers for this stuff to be implemented. Now, I saw an article today where if somebody's on house arrest, ankle monitors are now being made to listen to everything that's being said.
It is beyond the science fiction level. It's something, and a lot of people laughed at Alex+Jones and made fun of him, ridiculed him, and said, "Oh, you're just crazy. It's conspiracy nonsense." And even people laughed at Jesse Ventura when he went out and did his investigations. But now this is a documented fact that these boxes exist. They're going to be rolling these boxes out to all across America, and it's something right now that we as private citizens cannot do. We as licensed investigators in certain states cannot do. For example, to record people's conversations without their authorization, yet the government can violate your right to privacy and do so. Watch for these boxes. Watch for these capabilities. Ask your police department, or just be vigilant, I suppose, at this point. Look what's going on around you. And this brings me to a point. I just want to say this. I want to thank that person, the listener who sent those photographs of the German, the antique Army vehicle down on the Smoky Mountains. I posted this, and I got I posted this on Friday, and we were just walking out the door for the conference. Had little time. Posted this on the website. You know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Okay. And there's much more to this story. There's a lot of things going on in the Smoky Mountains. Look, we understand, and I fully understand. When I posted this, and when I believe I said as much, of course, this is a historic vehicle. No one needed to point that out to me. And, of course, this is privately owned based on the license plate. You didn't have to point that out to me. But nonetheless, it's not just about this vehicle, this driver, or this situation. It's about a contiguous and continuous series of events taking place in different parts of our country, including the Smoky Mountains. And I put that up there because not that there was anything decidedly nefarious taking place, but for information, because it is not limited to those pictures or what you see.
No, we're going to go back to calls, but I want to add something to what you're saying. There's places across the country, Appalachian Mountains, Adirondack Mountains, in places that are heavily wooded areas where there are caves, and there are areas where they're guarded by the United States government. Now, if you try to go in there, they will not let you, and they are kept massively hidden and secretive. No purpose is listed for these places or why they would be not allowed to be accessed by the public. But they got things going on in these places if they're being guarded by governments.
Joe, and listeners, I got to tell you this, right down in Allegheny County, there is a converted warehouse that has been purchased by the Department of Homeland Security. That is, it's a huge warehouse. They have brought in refrigeration units. They've brought in these trucks of equipment unknown. This used to be just a mere shell of a building in the middle of kind of nowhere. Now there is a perimeter of security, live, active security. You cannot even get close enough to take a photograph without getting your hand smacked at the very least, or arrested. It is, again, it's guarded from in a 360-degree perimeter, and there have been flights, helicopter and fixed-wing aircraft arriving on a very small runway that they have built in this rural area. And again, this is on the Allegheny-Butler County, Pennsylvania border. The reason I bring this up is we are seeing and getting reports of these facilities, once privately owned, now being converted by DHS quietly, and they're nondescript. They're usually pretty well hidden, very well guarded, and no one knows what's going on with them. And by the way, if there happens to be a fire or an emergency, the fire department has been advised, you don't respond. Now, imagine that. Imagine.
And it's not because they're going to just let it burn or let the emergency continue. It's because, we'll say Roswell as an example. They have federal people ready to take care of whatever emergencies those are because, A, they don't want the local police departments knowing what's going on there. 2, whatever's going on there could be detrimental if it was uncontained and they don't know what they're dealing with, so therefore they'll let the federal people take care of it. And it's just secrecy all around, which is never a good thing. And it's scary to see our federal lands being taken over, or our lands being taken over for federal purposes, and even worse when they will not disclose the reason for those takeovers. We're going to go back to
this. Before we do, I just want to say, sorry, I do that all the time, don't I, Joe? Receiving emails as we speak. There may be an issue with our phone lines. Okay, where people are having...
We have 50 callers on right now.
Okay, all right.
If you are having issues, keep trying.
All right. But I also want to say thank you, Dennis. From I'm gonna probably slaughter the name of this Indiana town, Napanee, Indiana, who's listening live right now. He's been listening to us on podcast for the last 3 to 4 months and enjoying the show. And I just want to say, thank you for checking in. Yeah. All right.
We're going to go. This is either international or private caller. 111 is the area code. But you're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. What's on your mind tonight? Possibly international caller?
Go ahead.
All right, we'll move on. Area code 614. You're up next. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. What's on your mind tonight?
Hi, Joe. This is Dawn from chat room. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well, hon. Hello, Mr. Doug.
Hello there. Glad to hear you.
Hi. I'm sorry. I'm on speakerphone right now because the dog just had to come in from going to the restroom.
I see.
I was calling in. about 10 years ago, I was diagnosed with DID, or what used to be known as MPD. I don't know if Joe's seen what I've posted in chat room about it.
Some of it, yes.
Yeah. The one thing I would like to say is not all MPD, DID victims come about from SRA or satanic ritual abuse. It doesn't mean that we're all possessed.
That's true. Correct. That's true. Yes. Yes.
One of the things that the Lord's really led me to do is to try to educate people about the difference between people that have had to deal with the horrible SRA scenarios and those of us that just had to deal with people that do evil just because they're evil. And before you start dealing with these people such as myself, which I have to praise the Lord for because he put me totally back together. I have no gaps in my memory. Took him 40 years to teach me what grace was, but I finally learned. And, there's hope out there for them. They don't have to, a lot of times therapists will leave people with DID or MPD in shattered states, telling them to speak to their altars. And that's not the way God meant for it to be. God came so we could be whole. Christ died so we could be whole and made perfect. And they just really need to hang in there and just keep praying. And
very well
eventually,
said.
Eventually the Lord's going to get through. And one of the things I like to do is just teach people the difference between demonic possession and true mental disorders. So this way people aren't trying to cast out demons from people that don't have demons. A lot of times altars develop when children are told they're evil or they're bad. And they may look demonic, but sometimes they're not. And when you deal with these people, you should just really leave them in the hands of professionals that have had to deal with them because they know the difference and they can tell the difference.
Yeah, Don, you're right, and you spoke on something that Mr. Dizdar definitely reiterated to us, that just because somebody has a multiple personality disorder does not mean that they are demonically possessed. And he said that you could be yelling at a multiple personality of a person, in an authoritative way, as though they're demons, and that will only push down deeper the multiple personality that can be fixed without, if you understand what I'm saying, without the, if they're not demonly possessed, you're basically yelling at another personality of this person that has nothing to do with demons, and it suppresses it further and makes the situation worse.
It really does make it worse. And, the thing about multiples is the reason why they changed it over to dissociative identity disorder, if you can imagine your brain being an apple and you put that apple in a container, well, the container's only going to fit one apple. If you tried to put a dozen apples in there, it's not going to fit. You'd have to cram it down in. And what happens with DID, basically, is that it's one apple, one brain, but it is split into various containers with walls in between them. And it's really kind of fascinating how the Lord developed the brain, because this actually helps to protect a person from severe traumatic abuse. It gives them a little bit of normalcy somewhere along the line. And if that brain can be split into various different parts, that brain can be put back together again. But,
correct.
The one way I found out to do that was just, you really got to depend upon the Lord, and our God is good. And, he will take you through step by step. And he doesn't do it harshly. It's at your own pace, and you just have to keep relying on him. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Bill Williams. He's the founder of the American Association for Exorcists.
Frankly, no. No, I haven't.
He is trying to start a college for deliverance ministries. And this way people become educated, people in the deliverance ministries become educated between the difference of dealing with, say, like an SRA victim, a DID victim, and even sometimes there are people with forms of schizophrenia, which will literally lock their bones into positions that if a person was to look at them without having, extraneous signs such as, unknown information being passed on to them that they could never have known about, the everyday average Christian would look at this person and say they're possessed.
Well,
and
it's important to it's important
this way
to
it just
understand
educates the difference.
Right. And thank you for pointing that out. Russ Dizdar is perhaps much more articulate than we are, but extremely important to understand the difference between the multiple personality disorder that is the consequence of, and a very deliberate act of, programming,
Yes.
versus something that you've acquired or is a consequence of something that happened to you in your youth or during your childhood. There's a huge difference, and we have to understand that. And Russ even went so far as to say, you've got to be able to know the difference, and you can't. I mean, there's very precise methods of diagnoses in order to understand the difference. And of course, you're not going to suddenly tap into your other personality and become an assassin. Obviously, that's not what you're about. So we respect that and we understand that. And hopefully, you didn't feel hurt or
no. See, this is my calling, is to help other people understand this.
Okay,
so
good.
This way, they're not making the mistakes, especially people in the deliverance ministries. So this way, they're actually helping the person. So, it takes a lot to offend me. I've got the skin of a rhino. So.
Boy, these days we all have to have that, yes.
Yeah. Well my family really did have to have it. But, I just wanted to say thank you for your show and to bless you both. And, man, my computer's been crashing. I've been having sound problems, all sorts of stuff when this program came on. So.
Oh, boy.
But I just call in. Yeah, it's been really bad. I would say this is a flat-out spiritual attack.
and I believe that.
Really
bad. I believe it. Well, thank you so very much for going through the differences. We appreciate that, and certainly that's something that we all need to keep in mind. And God bless you, and it's...
Well, God bless you, and Joe, I hope your wife gets better soon.
Thank you, Dawn. I appreciate the prayers and all the support.
Okay, you guys have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. One thing that, Joe, I wanted to, before the show, you had sent me an email concerning, in fact, this is an article by Servando Gonzalez. If you haven't seen this, it was published today with News with Views. This is about the selection of Hillary Clinton. Do we have time to get into this, or do you want to?
Sure.
Okay.
We got 15 minutes till top of the hour break. We got 3 on hold. We can get into this. We'll take a call, then we'll go to break.
All right. We had talked about this. In fact, someone at the conference had said this to you. I don't know the name of this person who sent this to you.
Didn't give a name.
But that said, I just want to go over this because this is so important to understand. This does fit in with with what we're talking about, the larger panorama of things. And we had addressed this multiple times during our program, but not to the extent with which Mr. Gonzalez had put this together. And he just notes that, contrary to what the normal American, your Uncle Fred, might believe, we've all been brainwashed. And since the beginning of the past century, Americans really don't elect their presidents. Presidential elections are just for show. And if you understand black box voting, how elections are rigged, how decisions are made, then you'll understand what I'm talking about. But we've been led down the path. We've been fooled. And, of course, we've talked about the fictitious right-left paradigm. It's two sides of the same phoenix coin, double-headed phoenix coin. The fact that we don't elect our presidents, that Americans, if you're listening to this outside of the country, I'm sure you understand our political system, perhaps even better than some people, the average person walking the streets of America. But the fact that we as Americans don't elect our presidents is so obvious that even Louis Farrakhan mentioned it once, this during a conference in Chicago in March of 2010. Farrakhan cryptically mentioned that Obama had been selected before being elected. We say that too, although in a different vein than Farrakhan. Everything, and he also said too that Obama does not run the country, and of course by inference, meaning that he's not the one that makes the decisions. Everything indicates that finally Hillary Clinton has been selected by this invisible government, the shadow government, to hammer the final nail in this nation's coffin, meaning to say that it would appear that Hillary is up next. And Steve mentioned this last night in his discussion about the nations being led by women. And this is not to put women down. It's the prophesied in the Bible in terms of the sign of the times, and when men will relinquish their responsibilities to women. In other words, saying, "Oh, okay, I'm done," or "I'm not going to handle this," and of course the woman has to step in. But in the case of Hillary Clinton, I think Steve had mentioned about this before or during last night's program.
You just don't want to see women get ahead in this world, do you?
Yeah, I was carefully treading that ground because I know that people are going to send me emails. But
no.
Be very careful with this. But if you don't know what the Chatham House is, you're not alone. It's like the Council on Foreign Relations, the CFR in the U.S., the Chatham House, formerly known, and you might remember this, folks, Royal Institute of International Affairs. It makes an effort to be out of the public's eye. It's a covert organization, but only recently, and thanks to the Internet and its non-controlled sources of information, people are beginning to know what these different institutions are, like the CFR and the Trilateral Commission. If we had the Internet back in as it is now, back in the 70s, my goodness, what we would have known back then, because these various organizations existed back then. But the new intelligence agency created by Colonel Edward Mandell House, remember him, Woodrow Wilson, the Fed, Philip Drew, administrator, remember him? Anyway, which conspirators disingenuously called the inquiry, served the new international bankers so well that they decided to make it permanent. A few days after the end of that conference, a group of conspirators from the U.S. and Britain, the British Roundtable groups, they met at the Hotel Majestic, where the British delegation was staying, to talk about how to continue their intelligence and espionage, to even export it. Now, I'm paraphrasing from the article. I'm throwing in my own 2 cents as well. To this effect, they planned the creation of a permanent espionage agency with branches, of course, in London and New York to continue serving their interests. Now, we're talking about this elite group. We're talking about the Illuminati. We're talking about we're going back to the very people who control things, and we're talking about Hillary Clinton in context of the 2008 election. So here's the real deal here.
What difference does it make?
Yeah, exactly. It was so long ago. But anyway, this agency that I referenced earlier in my comments was named the Council on Foreign Relations, and House was one of the founding fathers, together with Elihu Root. Now, the initial group of these secret agents was augmented with the inclusion of promising members. They were anxious to get into the espionage business, and it's so glamorous. Prominent among them, Herbert Lehman, Averell Harriman, John Foster Dulles. The British conspirators changed the name of their own intelligence agency to the Royal Institute of International Affairs, which later changed to Chatham House. So when you hear people talking about the Royal Institute of International Affairs, that was a precursor to Chatham House. And when you hear people talk about Chatham House, of course, you can reference back to the RIIA. But initially, and possibly with the exception of JFK, the would-be American presidents were tapped at the secret meetings of the Council on Foreign Relations, or even the Bohemian Grove. By the way, the Bohemian Grove was the subject of the occult satanic and occult conference this weekend. But it was at the Bohemian Grove where Reagan and Nixon were selected. Now, of late, more recently, they have become more globalistic and, if I might add, European in nature. American would-be presidents are tapped at this secret meeting of the Bilderberger Group or the World Economic Forum. 91, Joe, you know this? David Rockefeller invited this young, unknown governor from Arkansas to attend the Bilderberger meeting in Baden, Germany. A year later, who was in the White House? But Bill Clinton. George Bush was never tapped because, apart from being a member of Skull and Bones, he got his job thanks to his father, a senior CFR conspirator. And by the way, conspirator is the appropriate term for CFR members. They're just not CFR members. They're conspirators. They're members of they're agents of espionage. So anyway, real quick, this Chatham House prize is actually the globalist conspirators' reassurance to Hillary that she will be their next puppet in the White House. As expected, key globalist conspirators like George Soros and John McCain, yes, John McCain, sorry to burst your bubble, the rhinos,
just popped it.
Yep, bang. They've already expressed their support for Hillary's presidential dreams. CFR corporate member Goldman Sachs, of course, the banking industry, just made a campaign contribution of $400,000. But see, they disguise these donations as, for example, in this case, speakers' fees. Now, this is not the first time Hillary Clinton has been within this venue. I'll take you back to February 3rd, 1998, when she was First Lady Hillary Clinton. She attended the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, where, now this according to the press, she delivered this vigorous, rousing 15-minute speech, not even a note, a teleprompter. Barry Soetoro, eat your heart out. 2,000 of the world's most influential people were present at the forum, They applauded Hillary Rodham Clinton as she told them that they must do more to share the wealth and power with the billions of men, women, and children who are effectively without a voice. Boy, does this sound great or what? And, of course, at that February 1998 meeting, they cheered her as a leader, potential leader of the world. Well, now she was sure, and you've got to kind of think back to that time, she was sure that the presidency was actually in her pocket. Even after it became evident that she would not win the Democratic presidential nomination in 2008, she refused to concede her defeat. Now, remember this, folks, and this is how the CFR and Bilderbergers play into things. Defending her decision to stay in the race against Obama, Hillary dismissed calls to drop out by saying, "My husband did not wrap up the nomination in 1992 until he won the California primary somewhere in the middle of June, right? We all remember Bobby Kennedy was assassinated in June in California." What does that mean? But then she suddenly conceded her defeat, and she made a strong effort to overcome her wrath and became a very reluctant supporter of Obama. But what happened? What really happened? Remember, ladies and gentlemen, in June, it was early June of 2008, the Bilderberger Group had this impromptu, non-scheduled, very urgent meeting at the Westfields at Marriott Hotel in Chantilly, Virginia. The people attended there included senior globalist conspirators Rockefeller, Kissinger. The Marriott Hotel is located very close to Dulles Airport. The mainstream media never told the American public about this. And in fact, some of them were even hoodwinked, I believe, if memory serves me correctly.
They were put on a plane,
right,
where Mr. Obama was said to be traveling to go to meetings. The press corps, and come to find out, the plane doors shut, and the plane takes off, and no Obama. And when Robert Gibbs was on the plane being asked by reporters why they were basically kidnapped and taken away, he says that Obama had a wish to meet with these people who wanted to meet with him through several meetings in private without the press.
Interesting. Well, one thing that this article does not get into, in fact, the author states this: nobody outside the conspirator circle knows exactly what happened at the secret Bilderberger meeting or the secret CFR meeting. But after attending it, Hillary gave an about face and began supporting Obama. And, well, according to my source, what happened at this meeting was they called Hillary and Obama in, they meaning the Rockefellers, the Kissingers, the members of the Bilderberger group that had this Chantilly, Virginia meeting. And they provided each with a certain amount of time to make their case, and then decided amongst themselves, amongst this group of the powerful, influential members of the Bilderberger group, the espionage, agents of espionage, they said, okay, we're going to go with Obama, because Obama could usher in more rapidly the various goals of the agenda of the globalists, which they are, and more European-centric. Think about that. And think about what we're seeing with the healthcare right now, how Eurocentric that is. That's not in this article. But in this final run, and to close this out, in this final run for the implementation of this totalitarian, commo-fascist New World Order that they envision, well, the CFR conspirators cannot afford to run or take any risks. By the way, they do have plans and contingency plans, and they've got plan A, B, C, and D, and they got backup plans for their backup plans. And right now they cannot afford a president, for example, like a Reagan or Nixon, who, despite being under their control, will break their puppet strings and act on their own. So think about this. So we are being set up for, if Obama does leave, and I'm not convinced, and of course you've heard, I'm sure, me talk about this with Bush, I'm not convinced that he will leave. Maybe he has been selected, Joe, to preside over the destruction or the conversion, the fundamental transformation of America.
Well, his words.
That's right.
This is just the beginning of my leadership role on the world stage.
Well, and I think we need to pay attention to those words, and I really do believe that we are seeing the end game play out. And perhaps this is the end of the end of the beginning portion, or the beginning of the ending portion. But we have a long road ahead of us.
This is why it is so important to get our spiritual house in order, to get that relationship with the Lord, to learn what He needs from us and what we can do for ourselves and our family to be under His protection, and to make sure that during this final battle, this new world order that is being implemented, the old world order that is being implemented, the prince of the power of the air, Satan, will be running this world. How do we help him fulfill his will in this coming time of the end times? Folks, you're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. We're going to take your calls next hour, solely your calls next hour, at 661-244-9839. That's 661-244-9839. We'll be right back with our, ladies and gentlemen, to our third and final hour of this Monday edition of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. That was a long break there. Played a couple sound clips, one you heard before, one you might not have heard before, about the big five-eyed brother U.S. joining forces with other countries to spy on the whole world. And it is important. We are spying on the whole world. Before we go back to phone calls that we're going to take for the rest of the hour, I want to give it back to my dad, as he has an important piece of information on the Bilderberg-Clinton-Obama meeting that he did not mention while he was talking about it.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. And I want to thank, again, my friend R.W. there for his keeping me on the straight and narrow. Again, this is not addressed in the article. And this is not addressed, it hasn't been addressed elsewhere, but the sequence of events at the Bilderberg Conference in Chantilly, Virginia, that led to the selection of Barack Hussein Obama as the Democratic and the presidential nominee was as follows. Obama, his people spoke, gave a presentation to the members, to the entirety of the Bilderberger Group. Then Obama himself spoke. Following that, Hillary Rodham Clinton's people spoke, and then Hillary Rodham Clinton herself spoke, gave the presentation as to why she should become the president. The fact of the matter is that the people, the surrounding candidates, this is as much about the people that surrounding both Obama and Hillary Clinton as it was about the candidate, and this is important to remember. Now, based on the presentations made by both Obama and his people and Hillary Rodham Clinton and her people, there was a vote taken. Now, there was a select committee, or there is a select committee of 33 individuals in the Bilderberger Group. Certainly that number is not by accident. They voted. Of course, the body of the Bilderberger Group voted first, but ultimately the decision was made by the steering committee or the select committee of the 33 Bilderberg members. And again, this is not about just the candidates, but about the people surrounding the candidates. And this was also a push or a pull, depending on how you look at it, between the Rockefeller camp or the Rothschilds camp. And the Rothschilds are much more, as I mentioned earlier, Eurocentric. The decision was made. The selection was made. It would be Obama. And that, folks, is the inside story from someone who knows.
Back to the phones. We're going to go to area code 919. We're coming to you first. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hello, Joe.
Good evening.
Hey, I'm so glad to speak with you and Mr. Doug. This is a wonderful evening. What a blessing. God is great. God is great. You know, the message last night with Pastor Langford and Steve Quayle, boy, you guys were hitting right on target. It was such a blessing, and it was just the pure gospel. Listen up, people. This is for real. By the way, my name is Teresa. I've spoke with you before. I wanted to tell you guys that you are really being hit both ways, electronically and supernaturally, spiritually. The spiritually is getting very strong, and I would like to ask all intercessors to pray for y'all. Lay your hands and your hearts on the Hagmanns. They need you so much. I'm just shaking. I can't stress this enough. They're trying to cut them off electronically, and they're trying to cut them off spiritually. And there's a lot of waves going both ways. But anyway, Doug, I wanted to talk with you about some smut talk. You're going to enjoy this. This is to get off the subject. But sometimes life is stranger than fiction these days. And I heard you mention one time that you look at the Daily Mail in the UK. Is this correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Well, anyway, you got to check out today's topic, okay? Okay, get this. How to become superhuman the Scientology way in Clearwater, Florida. Back in 2004, I was out there visiting some folks and went down there just by accident and saw this facility that they were building. Oh, my gosh, it's as pink as a flamingo. But anyway, it was tremendous. I just can't express how huge this thing is. I mean, city blocks on city blocks. But anyway, they had it in the Daily Mail, the UK version, that they finished and dedicated it. Now, what I want people to be aware of, is that when you go to this website and you look at this facility, you're going to see pop stars like Tom Cruise, what's that guy that did all that dancing, Travolta?
Yep,
okay,
John Travolta.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, when you look at those people, they're there sitting like on the front rows. I want people to get a handle on the millions of people that are being deceived, that are eating this bullshit, excuse my language, up. And that's what it is. It is so blatantly in your face. Now, what I want people to be aware of, look at the symbolism that is dispersed throughout the crowds when this place was dedicated just today. I guess today is the 19th, right?
Yeah, the symbol.
Okay.
Today's the 18th. It's the symbolism of the crowds. The symbolism where the preacher's giving a statement. The tarp or the balcony that's over him has the pyramid on it. It is like the Mormon church in Salt Lake City. It is everywhere.
Man, is it unbelievable? And then you can see they have it's like a tent-like thing where they've got the Eye of Horus and Isis, all that crap. And then they have on another flip down, they're going to have sort of like a piece. It looks like a flag or something like that. I can't quite remember. But anyway, you're going to see the Delta signs, which all these movie stars are real big into giving the Baphomet, and the triangle, like the Illuminati sign, which they're flashing, constantly. And a lot of the rap stars, the black rap stars are into this too. And it's just Luciferian and it's just demonic as all get up. But anyway, you don't have to look too far to see what's around you, And it's really funny. You remember that movie like Men in Black? You remember the guys were like up at the Smut magazine rack where they were checking out, all this stuff like, you see at the grocery store. Well, hey, sometimes, they like doing stuff like that where they like, let things loose. But anyway, it's so blatantly in your face. But there's another thing, a commercial. You have to be vigilant on this stuff. There's an ad right now that's coming off that's targeting 20-year-olds. Know your DNA. Now, the gall of these people, you have to buy a kit for $99, and the way it hit me is like, you pay, they know. You know what I mean? So anyway, It's little tidbits, because they're flashing this stuff right in our face, and personally I take it offensive, and it's making me so mad. And you're talking to a person that's under spiritual attack all the time, because it's like when your little godlight is shining, these people will attack you verbally, and then you'll the meanness that comes out of them is unbelievable. And you're going to have to, in times in the future, you're going to have to be real careful, and you're going to have to let the Holy Ghost take control, because the only way I've gotten out of certain situations were being the discernment of Jesus Christ and the Holy Ghost leading me out of some hairy situations. And I just praise his name and walk in the Spirit. When you're walking and you're walking down a road or you're driving, turn off the garbage radio and talk to God, talk to Jesus, walk with him, talk with him. He'll lead the way. He's our only way. He's our salvation. He's our hope for the future. And pray for the ones that are lost. Oh, my God. They're even in my own family. I hate to say it, but yes, they are.
Absolutely.
Pray for them. And listen, I want to tell you something. We as Christians got to stand up. And that means we got to stand tall, walk tall, and preach tall. And if you don't know the word, get into it. And another thing, I want us to get on our knees and hands and pray for these devils that are in office. And I mean pray for them. Pray for Obama. Man, it hurts when you pray for the devil. But let me tell you something. There's got to be some let up somewhere. Because if we don't pray for these evil people, how is God going to intercede and work and do his work? You know, we've got to, these people that are afflicting us, and listen, they're like a bull on our butt, and we're just going to have to just keep diligent. That's all there is to it. Diligent.
Absolutely.
God bless you.
When they hit hard, we're going to have to, you know something, the way we hit the hardest is through prayer. And that releases the power of the Holy Ghost. That puts the Comforter in control. That puts Jesus right there in front of you. So let's walk in the Word. Let's talk the talk, walk the walk, and pray like the warriors we are. Put your whole armor of God on. By God, don't back down. Stand up. God made you tall. He made you. Okay? Remember who your Creator is. He can do all things because in Jesus Christ, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, who can we fear? Do you really think he's going to get the upper hand? As I say not. I say not. So stand proud. Be proud. Put on your armor and fight the fight. And you know something? When I'm in heaven, putting my feet in that good, cool water and talking to the flowers and eating that good fruit, you know, I'm going to say, Lord, thank you, Jesus. I was right, and you were right, and I praise your name. So
Amen.
put your faith
Amen.
in.
God bless you.
Okay. And listen, let me tell you something. Now, you intercessors out there, y'all put the word. We've got to come up a little bit higher now because these people are really hitting them hard, and they need financial support. And I wish I was in a position to give you millions. Hey, listen, I promise you this. I hit that stinking lottery, which I don't play, but, you know, every once in a while I put $1 or $2 in there. And I figure if the good Lord gives me the right number, it would so be it. But I tell you one thing, if that money ever comes my way, I got some blessings for some people. Ooh, especially
Oh, hon, God bless you. Thank you so much for your
anyway,
wonderful call.
I want you to put to somebody else, and I love you, Doug.
Right.
I love you, Joe. And listen, when Doug's not there, I hear Doug and Joe, and vice versa. Isn't that something? Y'all are tight. I love you. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Right. God bless.
Bye. Thank you so much for the call. And
you know, she brought up a very important point too about the Church of Scientology, the Clearwater building.
Yeah, and I saw this today.
Folks, let me just tell you something. The head of the Church of Scientology, David Miscavige, is, in my view, in my personal opinion, is an extremely dangerous individual. The Church of Scientology is not something you don't want to get wrapped up in, obviously.
Is he on the Southern Poverty Law Center list of a religious extremist? No. No, of course not. No, not at all.
But the entire, I had spent an entire morning with someone who was extremely knowledgeable about the Church of Scientology, about David Miscavige, and about the former head of Scientology as well. And I've got to tell you, it's not a pretty sight.
And we came in the seminar this weekend, some of the old pagan religious systems and Scientology ended up lining up, where Scientology became a branch of certain, believed to be ancient religious systems. It's not clear to many people what's going on, but with Scientology, but they are not serving the Lord that we are serving. So stay away from that religion. 480, we're coming to you. 480, we're coming to you now. You're live on the Hagmann Report.
Hey, guys.
Good evening.
Evening. Hey, this is Randy again. Hey,
Randy.
did you guys, you guys prayed for me about changing my job?
We got your number right here, and we've been, and ladies and gentlemen, Randy is the individual who called in, former used car salesman, really rough go, and of course has changed his life around, or changed his life, gotten into a better position that serves him better than his former. And you were really despondent initially. I mean, really despondent. We had people worried extensively about you. But we're glad to hear your voice. Go ahead. I interrupted. What's on your mind?
Oh, that's okay. It's interesting. I don't know if you guys have been following Bitcoin, but apparently in some of the exchanges it hit almost $1,000. And Congress had a meeting today, a hearing about this, and apparently Ben Bernanke actually said good things about it. That kind of makes me wonder, why would somebody who's heading up fiat currency be endorsing, the analogy is like, garlic to vampires, you know what I mean? It's the whole idea about Bitcoin being,
right,
totally secure and private and not, they can't print it.
Well, it's basically a digital currency.
It's a peer-to-peer digital currency, much like the peer-to-peer networks, right? And
it can be brought down and manipulated, I would say, maybe as easily as, if not more easily, than
cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's even called a cryptocurrency because of its use of cryptography to enact transactions.
Right.
Now, that said, folks, and Randy, I'll tell you this, I would, me personally, from everything I've learned about Bitcoin, and Joe, I think you'll back me up on this, given the fact that it is just digits on a ledger, it can be wiped out, manipulated as easy as fiat currency.
Yes, it can. And I wouldn't even know how to acquire Bitcoin or to use it. If I had 1 million Bitcoins, I wouldn't even know it right now. I don't know how the system works, but yeah, something to keep your eye on. And with him, I'll have to look into what he said about it, but that's definitely odd. It would be like him endorsing gold.
Yeah, it's got us really kind of wondering, why would they be endorsing this? And apparently, it was developed by, I don't know, somebody in China who was not only a hacker but a computer programmer. This was developed by very, very smart people, and apparently, when the government took over,
Satoshi Nakamoto, I believe, was the. I could be wrong, but that's who you're referencing.
Right, but I mean, from fellow patriots I've been talking to about it, that apparently it can't be manipulated because it's in your wallet. It's in your electronic wallet, I guess, and only you have the pass key to those.
Right. There are Bitcoin wallets, and wow, to explain this, it's. I don't know. I would equate it to like a key card, a credit card type thing, but it's assigned anyone that wants to use Bitcoin. They're assigned one or more of these specific IP addresses, which are collected and tracked in this wallet, and I'm not sure that's an even accurate depiction. but they have got public and private addresses. And this allows anyone to send Bitcoins to a wallet using this public address provided by the owner of the wallet or the owner of this card or this paper thing called a wallet. So anyway, it's a method of securing and protecting various private addresses and transactions, but yet you're doing it over a network. And the whole thing to me is dangerous as far as I'm concerned. And if you've got Bernanke coming out and endorsing it or saying good things about it or calling it legitimate,
right?
And what does that tell you?
Well, I remember Steve Quayle saying, if you don't have it in your hand, you don't have it.
Exactly. And I predict, by the way, that DHS and even the Financial Crime Center, I would predict that they're really hot and heavy on surveillance of Bitcoin. That's just me. So
yeah,
anyway,
it's interesting. Just wanted to know your take on that.
Yeah, anything that's virtual currency, as Joe said, if you can't hold it, touch it, feel it, protect it with a gun, put it in a safe or whatever under your mattress, it's not yours. You don't own it.
Huh. Interesting.
So that's our take on it, my friend. Well, God bless.
Yeah, it's great to hear from you, Randy.
Yeah, thank you. And once again, I really appreciate you guys praying for me, and I really believe that God really swiftly intervened on my behalf because of everybody willing to pray for me. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. The power of prayer of our audience is unlike anything I've ever seen, and it is, can't say it enough, such a blessing to know that the Lord has placed so many of his soldiers behind in our back, having our back, and not only that, having each other and each other's back in these matters, as we have to stick together as these things continue to come down on us and get worse and worse.
Right. Amen. Well, hey, that's it. I appreciate you guys'
Randy, thank you so much. All right. God bless,
right.
and keep fighting the good fight. Very good. All right. Thanks, Randy. Interesting topic, Bitcoin. Yeah. Joe?
Something I need to do a lot more research on, as I'm sure you do too. We don't understand the ins and outs of it. I wouldn't know where to look to get it. I don't know what it's used for. I don't know anything about it. So
it's just virtual currency, and allegedly, according to the latest report, there's 12 million Bitcoins in circulation, and there's folks, if you want to the track Bitcoin, for example, there is a website called Bitcoin Charts. Bit, like, bit, B-I-T, bitcoincharts.com. And there's a question, too, whether a virtual currency is a security under the federal securities laws and therefore subject to their regulation. Yeah, there's legislation here, and anything that does threaten the fiat currency in existence right now, as we're coming up on the 100th anniversary of Jekyll Island, I believe will be.
So a fiat currency threatening a fiat currency is a threat to.
Well, yeah, you can't have one mob against the other. You can't have mob infighting. But so at any rate, the financial aspect of this, the killing of the dollar, that's the real goal here. And you will see people saying, well, no, who would want to destroy the U.S. dollar? Folks,
everyone.
It is about creating, destroying the U.S. dollar, which will create such animus all across the globe against the United States. Yeah. And, of course, we will be blamed for all of the ills. And, of course, once the U.S. dollar is not the world's reserve currency and sufficiently destroyed, we will again ultimately be subjugated under the British crown through a global currency, and that is their objective.
And when I say everyone, I mean every country whose currency is not the world reserve currency, as we've went over many times, all the
meaning every other ones, yes,
that currency status brings. 480, we're coming to you next. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
I think we just did 480.
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah,
sorry
you
about
guys
that,
got
Rick.
it.
Sorry, buddy. And let's try another one in the
423. 423, thanks for holding. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report this evening. What's on your mind?
How you guys doing?
Very well.
Can I start y'all off with a little prayer?
Sure.
Okay, first I'd like to do this through Jesus. Call unto me, and I will answer thee and show thee great mighty things that thou knowest not. The Lord is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble. He knoweth them that trust in him. That's Nahum 1:7. The Lord also will be a refuge for the oppressed, a refuge in the times of trouble. That's Psalms 9:9. Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen thy heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. That's Psalms 27:14. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, I got a question for you guys.
Hope we can answer.
Have y'all ever heard anything about the Rothschilds being in the Bible?
Not by name, no.
Well, their name means red shield, right? And it's in there. It's in Nahum 2:3. Oh, you did know this?
Well, about the red shield, yes, and I understand where you're going with this, but go ahead.
Oh, really? There was no specific point. I just bringing it up that they are in there on purpose. Their crest it matches what this, it goes exactly according to the verse and everything.
Yeah, and I've read a lot about this, and I've researched this about the red shield and about the connection to Revelations, and of course the Rothschild connection to that particular scripture, if you will. I'd be real careful about, because when you start going there, when people start going there, there's also the tendency to bring in the fact, okay, well, now we're talking about the Jews, and we're talking about a Jewish conspiracy.
Right.
That's
it's also the Prince. Well, you got Prince William. That's his shield also. I mean, it's not just, it's a conspiracy of everybody. There's just two bloodlines. There's not 13. It's either the blood of Christ or it's not. It's just two bloodlines. It's that simple.
Yes. Yeah,
I mean, the conspiracy goes with every community. I don't like, the government of Israel. I don't like our government. I don't like all governments. That's just how that is, But
I completely understand. Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't know if you guys knew about that.
Yeah, it's not one of the things that we would bring to the table in terms of discussing it, because of its very narrow and limited.
Not the Rothschilds aspect of control, but the part of the scriptural reference.
Exactly. Yeah, that part is very narrow and very limited in scope. So, focusing on that alone also breeds that anti-Jewish or erroneously so component. So we have to be careful.
Well, I don't really look at them as being anti-Jew toward them. They're just anti-greed. They're just greed. They're just evil.
Right.
It's nothing about Jews or anybody else. It's just wrong. That's what it is. There you go, anti-human. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Go ahead.
I've been doing this real deep study for the last probably year, and I've been really persecuted over all this. I may have talked to you about this, about the whole, that there's one symbol ever since Babylon. They couldn't communicate no more, so everybody had to communicate through symbols, right? And there's only one symbol that's recognized through all religions. and it's the obelisk. It's the phallus, or AKA the steeple.
Correct.
Oh, you knew? Yeah, and it shocks. A lot of people don't even want to believe it.
Well, exactly, and we talked about this. And in fact, I talked about this when I was doing the 3-part series on the Illuminati. You're talking about the obelisk. It's the representation, of course, of a male phallus, and you're looking at it goes back to Isis and Osiris,
Nimrod,
and
Bel,
Right.
So, and what I found interesting, something I found out the other day about it, the piece that she didn't find, his shaft, right? It was eaten by a fish, and what I found weird about that is the symbol that Christians use to represent themselves is a fish. I don't know where they get that at because it's not scriptural. You know what I'm saying?
Well, right. You're getting into a mythology now versus scripture, and again,
right. Well, that's what's happened. Paganism's took over Christian beliefs over here.
Precisely, and we have to be. But it's very true what you mentioned. However, the basis of belief, and once again, it's not what we believe in this context. It's what they believe, and it's their symbols. It's their phallic symbols. It's and even when you talk about Isis and Osiris and the male and female parts, even NASA represents, for example, the space station and the dragon. This gets into a very convoluted discussion that a lot of people. In fact, we're short on time now, but it's worthy of discussion. It's worthy of discussion. But so the symbology is their symbology. Yes.
And one more thing real quick. I brought up the Joel's Army to you there a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't get to listen to you for about a week. Did anybody hit on that? Did any of your guests touch on that matter?
No, we did not get a chance to really put that under a microscope and talk about it. We had a few callers that did, after you called in, get into some of it. But we still have to do a comprehensive study in the show, explaining what they think Joel's Army is, and each and every person needs to read in the Bible and ask the Lord to reveal that to them individually, too.
Right. I would like to know what Paul McGuire thinks about it. That'd be interesting if you could do that. But anyways, I'll let you guys go. God bless you guys, and I hope everything goes well.
Great to hear from you, Tommy. You have a great night.
Hey, you too. You too. Bye-bye.
What we'll do is I'll send Joe, I'll send Paul, and even Steve. I'll get Steve's what his reaction to Joel's Army. I know that we have talked about it just superficially, cursory discussion about it. There's some pretty interesting aspects to that.
Yes, there are, and there are things that pertain to the end times with that, and things that we need to understand. To know what's coming. We're going to hit a couple news items here as we got through the callers. Federal judge slams Department of Justice for not prosecuting Wall Street executives. A federal judge with a history of slamming the regulatory system issued scathing remarks against the DOJ on Tuesday for allowing Wall Street executives to escape criminal prosecutions. Speaking in an event hosted by the New York City Bar Association on Tuesday, the U.S. District Judge Jed Rakoff of Manhattan said the DOJ's unconvincing excuses for not prosecuting individuals were technically and morally suspect. Not a single high-level executive has been prosecuted in connection with recent financial crisis, and given the fact that most of the relevant criminal provisions are governed by a 5-year statute of limitations, it appears very likely that none will be. Well, the DOJ has not said that all top executives are innocent in the lead up to the financial crisis. It has offered one or another excuse for not criminally prosecuting them, excuses that on inspection appear unconvincing, the Financial Times reports. Now, we know HSBC pled guilty to laundering drug money. We know that MF Global has to pay restitution to the $1.2 billion that they stole from the people that invested or used their bank or whatever you call it, and a $100 million penalty on top. But it's been a year since that happened? I wonder how much interest they've made on that $1.2 billion. I'm sure enough to make that $100 million penalty look like pocket change.
Well, exactly. And we're seeing fraud all across the financial spectrum. I don't know, folks, whether you heard about this. Friday, October 5th, 2012. Now, think back, of course, right before the election. The BLS released what was certainly the most important report of Obama's first term, and that was the final jobs number. Remember back right before the election, all of the talk about the jobs number and the unemployment rate. This report was released right before the 2012 presidential election. Selection, correct. Remember how many people predicted that it would go down? Yeah, it indeed did. It went down from 8.1% to 7.8%. And that permitted Obama to conduct just numerous speeches, just praising the success of his economic recovery. It served, too, as the basis. And remember this, Jack Welch tweeting, unbelievable job numbers. These Chicago guys will do anything. Can't debate, so let's change the numbers.
And how we count them.
See,
just manipulation upon manipulation. As you know, the unemployment numbers don't count the people who have been out of work for X amount of time, nor do they count, other. It's like inflation. Yeah, we're counting the inflation of prices and how the money's being inflated, but we're not counting the energy cost or using the price of food when we calculate how much our currency's value has lost. But these numbers are good because forget. It's like saying we're going to count your car sales, and we're going to count your car sales for this year, but we're not going to count ones that were used or leased. I mean, it's just such a messed up, and that was a bad analogy, just a messed up way. It's just ignoring obvious and pivotal sections of what inflation, how it would show that there is inflation, how it would show how bad the unemployment is. They're intentionally leaving that stuff out so they can pad their stats or make themselves look better than they really are. And people know how bad things are. Black communities' unemployment is off the charts. Middle class losing money, off the charts. Welfare and other increase in government programs are at the highest numbers ever. But we're supposed to believe jobs have been, slowly trickling back to normal. It's just a joke.
It really is. We cannot believe the numbers we are given. Of course, John Williams, Shadow Stats, runs an exceptional website that's Shadow Stats. If you really want to know what the true numbers are, just do a search on Shadow Stats, and there you will find the accurate numbers, the numbers behind the real numbers. No, boy, I could take this in a couple of different directions, but
go for it.
Excuse me.
Drive it right off the bridge.
No. Inside joke. But again, if you go back to the time period, October 5th, 2012, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics, you've got to understand, folks, that we are being played. The game is rigged, and once again, the ultimate objective here, regardless of position or presence, the ultimate objective is to take out the U.S. dollar, and in so doing, collapsing our way of life as we know it. And some people will say, "Well, that's sky is falling talk."
Well, you know what? The game is rigged. Both play for the same team. I have a good analogy for this: the Super Bowl, and this will relate. Many people can relate to this, as many people love football. And
Super Bowl, and they're half.
I used to be a fanatic when it came to NFL. I have not watched a game this year yet, but I do like watching them if I were to get a chance. Anyway, you have your favorite team that is going to the Super Bowl. How would you feel if somebody predetermined before they even played on the field who was the winner was going to be?
That's a very good analogy.
So your team goes to the Super Bowl. You haven't been there in 20 years. You're so excited. You got your chicken wings ready. You got your family there. You know, maybe laid some bets down to back up your team. Come to find out, they selected who was going to win before they even started the season. How fair is that? How would you stop watching football if you knew it didn't matter because it's all a dog and pony show?
It would definitely make you look at the game, in the televised game or in-person game, a little bit differently, wouldn't it? And perhaps you can use that. In fact, I'm currently in the process of doing several articles and I use that analogy as in one of the articles. But yeah, you know, the entire system is rigged. In Zero Hedge, Tyler Durden did an article, I think it was today, about how Wall Street manipulates everything, and he provided some infographics. It's worthy of your time, folks, to visit Zero Hedge and take a look at that article, How Wall Street Manipulates Everything, the infographics. For example, and I'll just use this, let's see here. I was trying to think of how quickly I could do this. Think about LIBOR. Think about mortgages. Banks have been accused of improper foreclosure practices, selling bonds backed by shoddy mortgages and misleading investors about the quality of their loans. Well, even these numbers are manipulated. Banks that responded to requests for comment about mortgages, about these improper foreclosure practices, were directed to filings and statements on their websites, their own websites. There's no audit, there's no fact check.
Yeah,
the fact that the bank, the fact that a bank is involved in an inquiry may not mean that it is suspected of wrongdoing, but you've got to look at this. It's everything is upside down and backwards, and
people are losing their homes who have paid them off. There's no mortgage foreclosure crisis at all.
Right.
I mean, they're downright stealing from the American people, and they're doing so with immunity and cheerleading from the government.
Yeah, exactly. And like you brought up before about MF Global, but even more importantly, places, investment banks. And we have to, and I think it would do us well to really understand how we got into this position. For example, repealing the Glass-Steagall Act, and then the incarnation of the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act. And if we understand the manipulation behind this system, behind the finances, you'll understand that not only is the game rigged, that although we are being victimized, for example, LIBOR, and I know I'm jumping around here, but LIBOR, which everything that we do pay for example, car loans, house mortgage rates, LIBOR sets these rates, LIBOR. Since early 2008, banks have been caught up in various investigations and litigation over alleged manipulation of the LIBOR rates. And LIBOR, by the way, stands for London Interbank Offered Rates. This is where everything is set on. It's an interest rate benchmarks. It's meant to reflect bank borrowing costs that are used to set payments on more than, to the global economy. But it's rigged. Again, it's rigged. So when Randy brought up the Bitcoin, the only thing I can say at this point, looking at the system, is if you have a desire to invest in a particular currency, know the difference between money and currency. And if you have that extra money and you want to protect your wealth, there's only really a couple of ways to do it. Obviously, food, water, survival supplies, but gold and silver as a hedge against inflation.
What do you
or
mean?
a hedge to protect your wealth.
The stock market hit 16,000.
Yeah, and who's making money on the stock market?
Well, you have to make money in the stock market in order to do that. You have to have stocks.
But who has the stocks? And it's all
V covers this extensively so well.
Wednesday is going to be a tremendous program because of this, but it's high-frequency trading.
Done by computer algorithms
That's right.
will take a stock to, buy a bunch of stock to raise it 3 or 4 pennies at, do this billions of times over through computers and then sell the stock, making 3 or 4 pennies per stock at billions of times through these computers. While, the average Joe sees a little jump and they want to get in, and all of a sudden, little do they know, the computer algorithms stop buying that stock. Now it's going to go down 10, 20 cents, taking the money from, people. And he explained a situation where he went in a room, was talking to a gentleman, and he said, watch this. Watch me drop the price of the stock 10 cents. And did it. That's how easy it is to manipulate these things.
I was reaching back in the deep recesses of my cranium, attempting to. Was it 10 cents or wasn't it more? I think
10 or 12 cents, something like that.
I thought it was more of a significant change, but that's right. So we, the people who are not part of this club, are being played. We're being gamed, and this is.
Do we want to be part of this club?
No, we don't. And we can't be. And this, of course, is going to lead to. And the important thing to remember, I believe, is, and this, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but in collapsing the economy, what's the goal here? The goal is the digital currency, a one-world currency that will be digitally verified, not digital like Bitcoin, but digitally verified, digitally authenticated. How are you going to do that?
Human authorization through biometrical advances in technology and control mechanisms.
Hey, ding, ding, ding. There you go. So what are we ushering in? We're ushering in a system, not only a one-world political system, not only a one-world financial system, but by default it's going to be not by default, but by design, a one-world religious system.
Through the order,
that will allow this. That's right. It's going to allow this this mark of the beast system to verify, validate, and authenticate your ability and enable you to engage in commerce.
See, here's the key. They'll break down the political and economic system in the world, and it'll be such disorder that people will be begging for order. Then they'll say we can re-implement the political order in this world. We can re-implement the economic order in this world. The only thing we need from you is a pledge on the religion order which you're going to take.
There you go. And one last thing in closing, folks, watch for the metals to take a hit, imminent. I mean, we're talking imminent. I know. I believe they dropped today. I haven't seen how much, and it's on our website too. The current.
I haven't seen either. I can check real quick for you.
Yeah, it's right here. Okay. Gold's down to $1,274 as we speak, and silver is down to $20.30. Watch for this Watch for this to dip to around well below the $19 mark on the silver, and even closer to the $1,200 mark on gold before the end of the week.
We were told
before the end of Thanksgiving.
We were told that they want to get silver down anywhere between $15 to $17 would be the prime. They want people to sell off what they have, panic selling.
Exactly, and we'll talk more with V and Steve on that on Wednesday, but that is going to be this should be the final blow to the gold and silver markets, at least based on the information I received. So watch for another hit to gold and silver between now and we'll say Black Friday, a significant downturn.